Big Sills! Easter week, Holy Week. Hope all are in great spirits. How could you not be? You live in the greatest country in America, or you live in the greatest country in the world. How could you not be in a good place right now, living in this country? The ability to talk sports, the ability to do whatever you guys want. It's awesome time. 3 weeks out from the NFL draft, it's Masters Week. I mean, by the way, before I get into a little bit all the things that we're going to hit on, there is a ton of conversation. You know, it's funny when I go over to my Twitter page and I see we put a soundbite up from the show yesterday. And Tone and everyone with the IT guys, you guys are doing a great job. Okay, you are. Hey, you guys want full context? Watch the show. That's the idea of a tease or a clip. So we said yesterday that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are working on the framework wrapped around what they're doing in Kansas City with Mahomes. Nowhere in that show yesterday did I say I ever saw Jalen Hurts' contract. The length of it, the amount of money for it, nowhere. But see what people, it shows you what the sinister people that are on Twitter do. They take a clip and they wrap it into whatever narrative they want. Sileo saw the contract. Yeah, right. No, I never did. I never said I saw that. Nowhere in 3 hours did I say that. But people take a snippet or whatever, a misquote, and then make it into anything they want to make it into. Make anything. And other people are reporting it. Hey, the Eagles and Jalen Hurts are working on a contract with the framework of Patrick Mahomes. So that's just me. But of course, you know, it's just funny. I say it, everyone goes nuts. Others say it, it's not a big deal. I guess we're lucky in a way. We are. We're lucky. Okay? And Jeffy goes, hey, Jeffy, I just want to make sure you know it's Big Sills. You know what I'm saying? Okay? It's GT, right? But there is, and GT, the one thing that I have seen, though, is a framework for what that Mahomes deal looks like. It's pretty team-friendly. It is totally team-friendly. And the Eagles are going to have a lot of latitude, and they're going to have a lot of vehicles to do whatever they need when it comes to structuring this contract. So if they have to go get money, they're going to go to the Jalen Hurts Bank. That's what we're going to start calling it, Tone. If the Eagles need money for players, they're going to go to Jalen Hurts National Bank. That's what they're going to do. Jalen, we need to get about $25 million so that we can sign X amount of players. Sure. Hey, Clutch is cool with this. Now, I agree what Jason Cole said yesterday on the structuring of this contract. There's got to be guarantees and safety mechanisms in there for Hurts because of the style of play. And personally, again, remember something here. Style of play versus contract negotiations. Aren't those two different things? You do have to weigh those in. I'm not a fan of that style of play. It's irrelevant. This is what they're doing. They're putting a contract together that resembles what they're doing in Kansas City. That's a Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes way to win. Good for them. Jalen wants to be in partners with the Eagles, and the Eagles want to be partners with him. Okay? Congratulations. All good. I'll tell you this. Wouldn't you rather be Philadelphia right now than Baltimore? Holy cow. Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. What do you think is a worse situation right now? Green Bay and the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, or Lamar Jackson and the Ravens? What's in What's more chaotic right now? I think it's Baltimore. You know why? The quarterback in Baltimore is 25. The guy in Green Bay's 40. You got 1 or 2 years max with Aaron Rodgers. You got another decade of that guy. I think the Baltimore situation is a lot more chaotic than the one in Green Bay because there's not a lot of years wrapped around that whole thing up there. You got Baltimore. Baltimore is going to allow a franchise quarterback that you matured and nurtured into being an MVP potentially walk out of the room, or better yet, have to come back on a shitty contract that he doesn't want to play on. There's no chance of that thing succeeding. Zero chance of that succeeding. All right. Before we get to the topics, I just wanted to clarify that. We didn't say anywhere in the show yesterday we saw Jalen Hurts' contract. That's a bunch of bullshit. And that's the media dudes that come on this show, pretend who they are on Twitter, and they sit there and try to start some shit up. Nobody said that yesterday here. Okay? Don't kid yourself. It's funny, how people watch the show. You'd be shocked who watches it. I found out a lot yesterday, especially a ton of people that tune in from the NovaCare Center every day. We appreciate it. And we thank you. Before we get into the topics, it's Tiger Week. Oh, excuse me, it's Masters Week. I watch the Masters. I'm not going to lie. I love the Masters. I mean, I watch the 4 major events. The other ones, I'll probably watch the Players. But the other events, I don't give a shit about the Shell Open. And quite frankly, if Tiger's not in it, I don't care. I have no caring. Imagine that. You understand something when you talk about Tiger Woods. You're talking about a guy who is the needle. How many guys in your last 25 years you've been watching sports are the needle? I wrote down a couple guys here. Watch this. LeBron James does not make me want to watch NBA basketball. He doesn't. He doesn't motivate me like Jordan. Shit, he don't motivate me like Larry Bird or Magic. Those two kind of were synonymous with one another. I wrote down these guys who are the needle movers over the last 25 years. Okay? Tiger, MJ, Tyson. Would Brady be one of those guys? Can you name me anyone else? As a matter of fact, like when you think about boxers, Floyd Mayweather, after a while, watching him run around for 12 rounds, he owned the money belt for sure. And I bought, but at the end I stopped watching because it wasn't really compelling fighting. It wasn't compelling. Tiger, MJ, Tyson was 54 years old last year and made $10 million in a sparring match with Roy Jones. He made more money than the heavyweight champion did fighting in a title fight in a sparring match with Roy Jones. What does that tell you about Tyson? If Tyson were to fight for the heavyweight championship today, Tyson would make $100 million. He'd make $100 million. And by the way, even if he got beat, you'd still watch him. MJ, Tiger, Brady, I'm assuming. There's really no other football guy I can think of that makes me have appointment setting television. There's no appointment setting guys in the NBA today. You know why? You don't know whether or not they're going to take the night off or whether they're going to load manage, whatever that means. NFL itself, the league, is appointment setting. Tiger's appointment setting. Dude, you don't want a sporting event going on with Tigers teeing it up on Thursdays and Fridays. By the way, you want to see massive ratings and declines if Tiger don't make the cut this weekend? Thursdays and Fridays? I don't know how the networks don't go 24/7 Thursdays and Fridays and just have a guy just follow Tiger around. Have a drone just follow his ass around. Because following Rory McIlroy around Doesn't move the needle. You're lucky it's the Masters. I love compelling athletes. Tiger's compelling. For whatever reason, his greatness, his skin color, his desire to want to be a guy who passes Jack, all of that. Race, politics, religion. A golfer in slacks moves the needle? Is golf even a sport? Tiger moves the needle, dude. There's not an NBA guy. I'll tell you this. Tiger's ever on a leaderboard on a Saturday or Sunday and you got a big NBA game, don't think you're ever going to beat that. Shit, you got women's basketball beating that thing now. Bo Jackson, not really. You think like Brady? Anybody else other than Brady can you think moved the needle? In the last 20 years, give me another NFL guy that moved the needle like Tiger and Brady. See, the NFL is going to survive, though. The NBA's never survived without Jordan. Not ratings-wise. It's not the same. Magic and Larry and MJ were the golden age of NBA basketball. You have to remember what its bookended with. You have to remember that in 1979, the Sonics and the Washington Bullets were on tape delay for their NBA Finals. They were on tape delay. Mahomes is getting there, Chief. Mahomes is getting there. Hey, maybe Serena Williams. Serena Williams makes me watch her. She does. I watch Serena. Serena's the greatest tennis player, not woman's tennis player. She's the greatest U.S. tennis player of all time. Okay? She's the greatest tennis player, not woman, tennis player in American sports history. And she makes me go like this, get the channel changer and go, I got to watch Serena, man. Serena makes me do this. Okay? Jordan made me do this. Record. Brady, record. LeBron, I don't care. Great player. Kevin Durant, that's not appointment-setting television. Sorry. Tiger Woods in golf is appointment-setting is amazing. Mike Tyson. Dude, you had to watch a Tyson fight. You had to watch a Tyson fight. And get this, I haven't wasted more money in my life than watching Tyson fights because they usually lasted 3 minutes. They were 3 minutes and it was over. And you were like, shit. But you had to watch it. Americans like train wrecks. Tiger Woods. I watch him. Man, dude, I got up this morning. You know what? Instead of watching the shows or listening to the shows that I like to listen to, I had to watch Tiger. I had to watch it. Trust me, a non-diverse sport like golf doesn't move my needle. I don't like white boy sports. I like to have diversity in it. And that's not a sport that really kind of moves my needle. Okay? You know, there's one thing also that I've learned about doing shows like this compared to when I did radio. I can't tell you how many times I tune on shows, and I think our network does a spectacular job, but I can't tell you how many times I watch other shows who put insignificant guests on, and I'm watching you guys, what you guys are saying over here, and I'm going, holy cow, these people over here are talking about something that the audience doesn't want. This is actually more about you guys. That's why I'm glad we're 90% football. You guys are starving to see what the Eagles do in 3 weeks, and so am I. Major League Baseball, wake me up in 20 games. NBA, wake me up when we get to the second round. Find out. Wake me up in the second round. I mean, shit, the players in the NBA don't give a shit about the regular season. Why should you? Isn't that funny? The league wants you to pay for season tickets for the NBA, but the players don't even give a shit. Why should you? Wake me up when they care. Wake me up when they care and I'll care. Jordan, if you ever go back and look at Jordan's stat line, look at how many 80 games he played. Dude, Jordan must have played like 7 years in a row, never missing a game. MJ. That's what made Michael Jordan the greatest basketball player of all time. He had more of a love of the game than LeBron did. LeBron, if you're going to start a basketball team, LeBron can play all 5 positions for you. Same thing with Wilt. Wilt could play all 5 positions, arguably the greatest talent in the history of the NBA, him and LeBron. Funny, if I had to win an NBA title, I'm not taking either of those 2 guys. I'm going to take Russell, and I'm going to take MJ. May even take Magic over those 2 guys. May even take Kareem. Dude, every time you bring up GOAT conversations and who moves the needle, you know what made Tiger so great? Tiger Woods, you can't compare him to Jack. Do you know who Tiger is? He's Jack and Arnold combined. Arnold brought golf to the television sets. Jack brought the greatness to it. Tiger brought both. That's what Tiger is. He's Jack and Arnold. That's what makes him so riveting. And he's a minority in a dominated white sport. His greatness supersedes all of that for sure. But it's compelling. Tiger's special. You will never see, you know you're special when you see this and you hear this every year. He's the next Tiger. Rory's the next Tiger. DeChambeau's the next Tiger. This guy's the next. Every time you keep hearing the next Babe Ruth. I mean, can you imagine this? Babe Ruth, you haven't seen. There's only 14. I don't know if you guys know this. We're going to get to the topics here, I promise. Do you know there's actually only 14 actual playing minutes of Babe Ruth? And we still talk about that guy 85 years after his last at bat. That just shows you when people talk about some of the greatest needle movers like Ruth and those guys, you talk about Babe Ruth 85 years after his last at bat. Dude, that's moving the needle. Tiger Woods is Arnold Palmer and Jack, all rolled into one. He's a walking encyclopedia. Tiger's impact on the game of golf, it's not so much with African Americans. It's surely Asians now are just so prominent in the sport. It's great. Golf is getting more diverse, and the Asian golfers dominating it now. That's an impact, I believe, from Tiger. Tiger brought both. My opinion. Remember, Tiger's mom used to send him over and have him go to Asia all the time and play in those tournaments overseas. Tiger Woods is on your television set. Nothing else kind of matters. All right, let's get into the topics here, especially when we're 3 weeks out from the draft. By the way, Philly 500 at 5:30 today. How important are the 10th and 30th pick, do you think, for the Eagles this year and their chances of winning? Do you think the 10th and the 30th pick in this year's draft is gonna sway whether or not the Eagles repeat as NFC champions? The 10th and 30th pick, do you think one of those two or two of those picks are going to sway in any way whether or not the Eagles win the NFC title or not? Last year's draft didn't matter. Will this year's draft matter? You think that 10th and 30th pick will be a significant? Is that the tipping? Is that the tipping point of whether or not the Eagles are going to win the NFC? Personally, I don't think it is. I don't think there's a player at 10 or 30 that you could take in this year's draft that's going to tip the scales whether or not you repeat as NFC champions. I just don't see it. Maybe you do. Look, I told you yesterday, Bijan and it's funny when I hear people go, hey, listen, taking a running back at 10 is not the right thing. Yeah, but you know what I tell you? So you know what you'll do? You'll take the lesser player. How common sense? Think about the common sense now. There's people in Philadelphia would rather have the Eagles take the lesser player at 10 than the right player and not overdraft and do exactly what the organization has done for the last 23 years. Overdraft players in the first round. Do you understand that? Drafting a running back at 10 is a bad idea. Well, shit. Drafting Jalen Reagor was a bad idea. Overdrafting Jordan Davis was a bad idea. Andre Dillard was a bad idea. Derek Barnett was a bad idea. I mean, seriously. Hey, the position, I get it. But when you start talking to me like taking a particular player at 10 was a bad idea, what about the shitty picks they've had at 10 or in the first round? I mean, honestly, man, you make it sound like the Eagles land on these pods that turn into Jason Kelce in the first round. That's obnoxious and dumb. So some people in Philly would rather have you take the lesser player at 10. Listen to that. Well, I'll take an edge rusher. Why? He's not better than Carter or Bijan Robinson. So you're going to take the lesser player on a team that's pretty stacked on offense. And your front four is probably the best in the NFC East right now. Okay. That's a fundamentally flawed mentality, in my opinion. You got to win a Super Bowl this year. You got a 2-year window before that contract is going to kick in with Hurts. Okay? And by the way, you can't miss on picks. You're not going to have the luxury of missing picks any longer. When your quarterback makes $50 million for the next 7 years, you better land on your picks like Kansas City did. You better hit on them. Howie's not going to have the luxury. You know what the next 7 years is going to look like with Jalen Hurts' contract? You're going to be looking at B actors in free agency, and you're going to have to build through the draft. Howie's going to be kind of handcuffed a bit when it goes out to wanting to pay for big-time free agents. Well, you think you don't have the best of all of it no more. Not after 24. Just think about what I said. The majority of the media people in Philadelphia would rather have you take the lesser player at 10 than take, and they want you to take a position of need, which is overdrafting. That's why more people, you want to hear something crazy? I got a stat for you before we move on. Totally where I'm going with this. I'm going to show you this. This is just in quarterbacks, the premium position. This is the fundamentally flawed mentality that Philadelphia media people have when it comes to that 10th pick. Here's the stats. The last 15 years, first-round quarterbacks. Why do I pick the quarterback position? Because traditionally it's overdrafted. They labeled them home run, mixed results, incomplete, misses. Home runs in the last 15 years, 11, 24%. Mixed results, 6, 13%. Could go either way, whatever you think of them. Incomplete, 8, 18%. Misses, 20. 44% of the quarterbacks taken in the first round are bust. but you want to land on a player at 10 who's the lesser player and hope he turns into someone. You have to play the averages here. By the way, listen to those. Almost half of the players you draft at the quarterback position won't make it. Why? You overdraft. And people want to overdraft the 10th pick. That's why you trade out of it. If particular players aren't there, if your desired player isn't there, you're going to take a 44% chance. That's just a quarterback. And then I showed you the numbers with the Eagles since 2000. 37 DBs they've drafted. A massive failure. You put all this into consideration, you think the Eagles are going to hit on the 10th pick? Really? What gives you that hope? Oh, hope. Okay. Hope. Now let's do something creative here. Okay? Let's do something creative. Something that no one has talked about. Would you give the 10th and 30th pick for the best player in the draft, Will Anderson? Here, let me put it to you this way with Will. If he would have went in last year's draft, he'd have been the first player taken. He's the best player in the draft this year. 2 years in a row, Will Anderson has been the best player in college football. And you got the 10th and 30th pick. I would give you the 10th and 30th pick for Will Anderson. He's an impact player. He's better than Micah. He's better than Chase Young. He's the greatest player Nick Saban's ever coached. Look it up. He's the best defensive player he's ever coached. And that speaks a lot. If that's me, and that guy falls into 4, I'll give you the 10th pick and the 30th pick for that guy. And I'll be pretty good, and I'll be very comfortable in how he's got him on a rookie deal. There's no one else in that. There's 3 dudes. Will, Bijan, Carter. Who would you rather have? The rest of those guys, I don't think it's a great draft. 0 character issues. Guy played in the freaking Sugar Bowl. This guy played in the Sugar Bowl. You know why? He wanted to be like an Eagle, a good teammate. That guy Will Anderson has Eagle all over him. What a guy in your locker room. I thought about this. Would I give up the 10th and 30th pick for Will Anderson? You bet your ass I would. Go get him. You can't go wrong with this guy. I don't say this very often. He's a can't-miss guy. I'd give you 10. Again, I'm not trading up into the top 3. That guy's at 4 or 5. How do you're going to sit there and take Brian Branch, Miles Murphy, the lesser guy? I don't get that philosophy, man. I'm looking for great ball players. The Eagles are close. By the way, Will Anderson becomes the Nick Bosa eraser. You start telling me about superstar players on your – you don't have a superstar player on your defense. You could put one on there now. You want to put a superstar football player on your defense? Go get Will Anderson. 10 and 30. you can have it. Fourth pick. You know what? I don't know if it would take 2 1s to get there. I don't know if it would take 2. Might be a 1 and a 2 and a 3. Might not be 10 and 30. But if you have the chance and he's there at 4 or 5, again, top 3, we're talking a lot of assets. And they don't have a lot of assets. Well, if you don't have a lot of assets, why not go for the sure thing? You see, the Eagles are in a funny position here. They don't have enough draft equity. Okay? They don't. They have 6 picks. So trading down, getting nice players, filling in the gap, okay. And to go to Tone's philosophy, is edge rusher a premium position? Is it a premium position that you pay? Edge rusher. We're not talking about a safety, a DT, a running back. We're talking about a premium position, are we not? Well, if it's a premium position, trade up and get them. Like I said, it might not take the 10th and 30th pick. It might take the 10th pick, 2 and a 3. Because you know why? What if one of those quarterbacks falls? And the team needs a quarterback, like Indianapolis. Like the Raiders. Move up in front of them. You move up in front of the Raiders? Raiders need a quarterback. Again, get the best player in the draft. Look at the amount of picks you have next year. Worry about your corners and safeties in next year's draft. There's a reason you paid $30 million for 2 corners. That's for this year. Dude, the NFL is about today, not tomorrow, not yesterday. No one cares about yesterday or tomorrow. They care about today. What are you going to look like in 2023? I say, whatever the draft equity it takes to get Will Anderson, go get the kid. Go get the kid. Where would Will play in front of Reddick? No, he'd play on the other side. You'd have Reddick and him, and Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox. So your outside LBs would be Reddick and Anderson. Your ends would be Sweat and Graham, and your tackles Davis and Cox. It's the best front 7 in the NFL. Something that the Eagles invest in. Front 7, O-line. And something they're good at. Reddick, Graham, Cox, Davis, Sweat, Will Anderson. You think your chances of winning the NFC go up or down if you make that move? What do you think? Your corners are intact. Your front 7 is the best in football with that move. It's the best front 7. There's not a better front. Even San Francisco would look at that and go, holy shit. You'd be better than San Francisco's front 7. One move. You'd be the best front 7 in the game. Why not move up and get him? Can you name me a better front 7? If you have Reddick, Anderson, like I said, Sweat, Graham, Fletcher, and Jordan Davis. Is there a better front 7 in the NFL? Dude, your D coordinator would be sitting there going, holy shit. Dude, I don't know what with today's offensive lineman, that front seven would be an upgrade to last year's front seven who had 70 sacks. And you're going to need it to get after Josh Allen and Mahomes this year. You're not playing Andy Dalton and Davis Mills. You're playing some pretty good dudes this year. Think about that. Trade up. Trade up. If Will Anderson is not taken in the top 3, 4, and 5, I'm going after the kid. How much will it cost? I'm not, after thinking about 10 and 30 to get him. Two ones for a guy like that? Hey, wait a minute now. Brian Burns, Carolina put him on the block. The Rams were going to give him 2 1s for him. Carolina said no. Carolina said no to 2 first-round picks that the Rams were going to give him for Brian Burns, their edge rusher. Why? It's what Tone says. It's a premium position. I'm not doing this for a safety or linebacker. I'm not doing any of that. Howie already showed you he's not paying $25 million for a DT or a safety $10 million. He's not doing it. Arthur goes, Dan wants to draft everyone. No, I want to draft somebody who will help your team. Not just Myles Murphy. Myles Murphy. He's a dude. Like your guy Jordan Davis was a dude last year. You want that kind of impact? A dude. Or do you want the dude? I don't want to draft a guy that's a dude. I want a guy to come in and play. That kid from Utah last year went down there to Jacksonville. As the year got on, man, he got better and better. That corner that I wanted you to draft from Washington started in the Super Bowl. Shut your offense down in the second half. Again, if you move back, probably makes the most sense at 10. Okay? Probably makes the most sense. Taking Myles Murphy at 10. Jalen Carter, Bijan's there. They're not taking either guy, probably. They'll probably take Carter, but they wouldn't take – it just kills me when I hear people go, you would rather have Myles Murphy, the lesser player, than Robinson, who's the better player and better evaluated player, and you're not overdrafting. If you could date Halle Berry and she wants to date you, would you date her cousin instead? No, I don't want to date Halle Berry. I'll date her cousin. She's not as good looking. Yeah, I know. It's all right. Okay. I don't get that philosophy and thinking. Well, the Eagles, this is what they do. Well, this is what they do? I told you what they did. They're not very good at many positions over the last 23 years. O-line are great. Rest of them, not so great. Like I told you, doesn't their behavior and how they draft show you that when more players fall in line on where they're evaluated, they do better in the draft? They're not very good first-round draft. They're not very good first-round draft pickers. They're not. It's not an opinion. Their record speaks to it. So you got a chance to go maybe get the best player in the draft in the last 2 years, but you'd rather sit at 10 for Myles Murphy. I thought Howie was going to be creative, a Howie move. Dude, Howie would knock the top off the draft if he did something like that. That's a Howie move. Dude, getting AJ last year was incredibly insane and was incredibly awesome. See, look at Yacht. He wants to take the third best defensive tackle in the draft when you could go maybe get the best player in the draft over the last 2 years. I don't get it. If you're so close to the Super Bowl and you're so close to winning this thing, the NFC again, why do I want a guy from Pitt when I could get the dude on a rookie contract? Any name you name to me, there's 3 dudes in this draft. I think there's 3 dudes in this draft. Bijan, Carter, Anderson. You know, the kid Tyree Wilson's not bad. He's pretty good. I posted a game film of Jordan or Jalen Carter. I'm even more convinced he looks like Jerome Brown. He gets off block. He's 10 times the player Jordan Davis is. His hands are better. His feet are better. He slides down the line of scrimmage. He is an effing beast. He is as good a defensive tackle since Ndamukong Suh came out of college. I mean, he controls the interior of that line. You don't have a defensive tackle in your team right now that's got the talent that kid has. He's a great football player. Great. Not good. Great. That's what I want to draft. You know, when Buddy was looking at Jerome, you know what Buddy said about Jerome? I was in the room with Jerome. You know what he said about him? Ain't a player in this draft that I would take over you. You know why? You control the game. It turned out to be true. That's his kind of kid. Okay? Is he a little bit up? You know what? Sometimes edgy players are sometimes, I don't want to say hard to coach. That's why when I hear somebody like Gardner Johnson or even Darius Slay or some of these other guys that got big mouths, it's all right. I actually like that. It's okay. Most of the time when you're great, there's an eccentric part of you that you have to be a good coach and coach it. My favorite type of coaches, you know why Dean Smith never won more national championships? I think he won 2. How could you have all that talent at Carolina and not win more than 2? Do you know why he only won 2 national titles? This guy had Michael frickin' Jordan, James Worthy. Go down the list of all the greatest players in the history of the NBA. Why do you – I had him on my show in Tampa years and years ago. And he said something to me that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit because I realized what a better coach Jimmy Johnson was. Why do you think Dean Smith didn't win more national titles? It was consistently outcoached in the title game. I mean, why do you think like Marquette beat him with nobodies? Why do you think he only won, I think, 2? His entire time at Carolina. You know what he told me? He told me, he goes, you know, I always really liked to recruit guys that had my kind of personality so they were easier to coach for me. And I went like this. What a shitty place to play. So if I didn't have your mentality or your ideology or your way of thinking, you couldn't coach me, I'm out. No, thank you. I like coaches that could coach Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin. I like that range. Okay? I like that range. That shows me a coach has patience. That shows me a coach can coach anybody. You should be able to coach T.O. You should be able to coach Donovan. To me, sometimes that's a failure on Andy. You couldn't get those 2 players to play? Funny. Mike Tomlin got in Antonio Brown and Roethlisberger to play. Brady and Moss. Brady and Aaron Hernandez. I mean, coaches, you got to coach different styles and different personalities to get the maximum out of them. It's about getting personal and having personal relationships with everybody in your locker room. That's how you motivate people. So if a kid like Jalen Carter's got a little bit of an issue, coach him, teach him, help him. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Coming to the NFL, I get it. Everyone should be ready-made. Well, it's not the case. It's not the case. Some people have to be hit with a hammer, And some people have to be hit with a feather. That's up to the coach and the general manager to get through to the player. Okay? Drafting robots is not going to win you titles. I tell you this all the time. Hey, man, you don't win championships with choir boys. Sometimes you got to be out there a little bit. You think that Ravens team had a bunch of good dudes on it? Probably no. I'll take that back. You think those guys weren't edgy? Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Suggs, Goose, all them guys. Right? Get in your face, get in your ass. It's the kind of teams I like. That's the kind of teams you build dynasties around. For me, again, the three best players in this draft are Bijan, Jalen Carter, and Will Anderson. The rest of those dudes are dudes. I don't really believe that this is a great draft. How about this? When you put the film on people, Jalen Carter makes you go, wow. At times, Tyree Wilson made me go, wow. I thought are there any wow guys in this draft? Carter, Anderson, and Robinson are wow guys. What's this? Do you think Will Levis is a wow guy? Or Anthony Richardson? Yeah, sure, his backflip is cute. Bryce Young gives you a little wow. But then what happens with the wow? You're like, wow, he's really small. Dude, the only reason I don't put him in that category with those other three dudes is because of his size. I have a problem with that. Especially, hey, let me ask you this. If Bryce Young played in the Eagles system last year, let me ask you this. If Bryce Young played in the Eagles system last year, how many games do you think he'd last? How many games do you think Bryce Young would last? If he played the same position Jalen played and had to do the same things Jalen, I asked myself this question last night. How many games do you think Bryce Young could get through playing the style of game that Jalen plays? Quarterback sneaks, the push play, the amount of running. You think Bryce Young could go 18 carries and then throw the ball 30 times and play 17? Shit, Jalen couldn't. Jalen missed a couple games. You think Bryce Young gets through half the season in the Jalen Hurts offense? Bryce Young couldn't run the Jalen Hurts offense. He could run it for 2 games. And after that, that guy would never be healthy, and he would be Tua Tagovailoa. Am I wrong? Think of that. So say Jalen didn't really pan out, and we're still talking about the quarterback. Bryce Young couldn't play that quarterback system they have in Philly. CJ Stroud probably, but could he be as effective? Doubtful. Think about that. The quarterback you have in Philly is better than anything that's in this draft. And those guys are going to go in the top 4 picks, top 5 picks. There's not a guy on that team that could play in Philly that's a quarterback prospect. But you want to overdraft Myles Murphy at 10. All those teams are going to overdraft the quarterback 3 weeks. Draft Bijan and give 280 carries for 4 years. Hey, man, absolutely. 5 years, he blows the knee out. You guys win a Super Bowl? I don't care. I'll run that horse, and we'll go around all the stakes races, and we'll see how long it lasts. Hey, man, Todd Gurley didn't last. Zeke didn't last. What makes me think Bijan will be past 5 years? Not everybody's Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry. There's special dudes. Myles Murphy at 10. Hey, It's not even a safe pick for the Eagles. They're not great at ends and drafting pass rushing ends. Okay, but you're going to take a gamble on a position you've been marginal at for the last 30 years almost. How's that? How do you even think that way? Oh, but this year you're going to get it right. I got it. I got your MO. I know who you are now. I got who you are now. You're not good at getting DBs. That's for damn sure. Your defensive ends are okay. Wide receivers, you're terrible. I mean, but you think at 10 you're going to land on a defensive pass rushing edge rusher that won't impact your team at all this year. By the way, some go like this. Well, Sills, look what the Cowboys got in Micah Parsons. I don't know. I think Micah Parsons is a really fine ball player. He ain't better than Chase Young. I do not believe Micah Parsons is better than Chase Young. I do not believe that. I do not. He's not in the room with Nick Bosa. Shit, the kid from the Raiders is better. The guy from New England had a better year, I thought. I'd name you 5 or 6 dudes that would take over him defensive. The guy in Cleveland's better. Myles Garrett's better. I don't think that's an even conversation. Is it a conversation? Marshall goes, Sills, what's up? Who the hell said Myles Murphy at 10? No, that's what. Wait, no, Marshall, that's what a lot of people got. By the way, is he around the 10th pick? Probably, but impact player on a team that's maybe. Well, here, let me ask you this question. How many players away do you think the Eagles are from winning the Super Bowl? Let's do this. How many players away do you think the Eagles are? How many players? How many players away do you think you are from winning this thing? Shit, man. You were a bad fumble and some bad schematics in the fourth quarter away from winning it. Big 90 goes 0. Then why would you take Myles Murphy at 10 if you think you're right there? GT goes 3. 2 to 3 players, stud players. Well, why not get Carter or Anderson? Those are the only 2 super studs in this draft. If you think you're 2 players away, why not get one of the super studs in the draft? An impact defender away. Myles Murphy is not an impact player that's going to. You thought Jordan Davis. Hey, by the way, did you guys thought more of Jordan Davis a year ago, didn't you? Than you did Myles Murphy from Clemson. Didn't you? Look at the impact Jordan Davis had. The guy you take at 10 is going to have the same impact Jordan Davis did. Put that in the back of your mind that I said that today on April 6th. Just remember that. The guy you draft, if you don't move anywhere and you stay at 10, the guy you draft will have the same impact. And if you draft an O-lineman, which is not bad, probably right, probably safest for them, okay, that guy's not going to be ready. And he's not going to be ready to be served until maybe 2 years after that. Relative says if Murphy's the best option at 10, they will trade back. Probably what they're going to do. That's why I say this. Dude, 3 players. Hey, what you got to do is you got to turn on the radio or you got to read some websites and listen to who the people want to take at 10 and 30 and laugh because they won't have any impact on your football team at all this year. 0. Because it's not a great draft. Watch a guy play at Boston College or Clemson or Oregon State. Okay. Especially on a football team that's this close from winning the Super Bowl. And know this, you got to get Mahomes on the ground. You couldn't do it in the Super Bowl. Let's take the best O-lineman at 10, then get a decent running back later. There's 2 running backs in this draft that are worth the shit. There's 2 running backs. JH, there's 2 running backs. The group you have now is better than, if you don't take Bijan or the kid from Bama, I guess, okay, I keep the guys you got now. They're better. They're better. Wide receivers, you probably need a 3. Get that in the latter rounds. If I were you, I'd get a wide receiver that can block in the run game and blow dudes up in the secondary. Don't give me one of those Quez Watkins guys who's a marshmallow. Don't give me Marshmallow Watkins. Give me a guy that's going to knock somebody out in the secondary. Coming across the middle when Jalen needs some help and he's out in the perimeter. Or your running game, or AJ's out there. I want, you know what separates AJ too? What makes him really a stud? He played with Derrick Henry blowing dudes up in the secondary. That guy's not afraid to put his hat on someone. Okay? You don't have, you already got a pass catching, route running demon in Devontae. You don't need another one of them. You are a power football team. Don't become a finesse team. Stick to who you are. That's their identity. Power rushing, power defense. The Eagles have dominated the NFC East with that mentality. Cowboys, if you notice, they're trying to get to that physicality, aren't they? Talking to Derrick Henry and all this other shit. Okay? Dude. There's 3 dudes in this draft that will help the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Bijan Robinson, Jalen Carter, and Will Anderson. How much is Howie willing to go get one of those 3 guys? Everyone knows it. Those 3 guys are the best position players outside of the quarterback. Or they're better than the quarterback position. But the quarterback is a position of need. And in today's NFL, you've got to put points on the board if you're going to win. The NFL wants you in space. Can you put points on the board? That's all they care about today. Can a quarterback put points on the board? You got to come away and have a guy who can put points on the board. Hurts can put points on the board. Okay? Hurts can put points on the board. That's why he's going to get $50 million. That's why they're going to invest in him. That's why the majority of the money is on the offense. Let me tell you something else about Jalen here that he's a benefactor to. You are so lucky if you're Jalen Hurts. You have something nobody in the NFL has. And it's remarkable to look at. If you look at it and you start dissecting it, he's got the greatest center in the last 10 years, 15 years in the sport. He's afforded 2 bookend tackles. One's all-pro talent, the other's a Hall of Famer. Nowhere in the league do you have that. A Hall of Fame, all-pro center. Do you know the development that helps with Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts would not be developing the way he is at this pace if he didn't have those 3 guys around him. And then how he had the insight to go get AJ. Not only did that help Jalen, it helped Devontae. And you got a tight end that's emerging. Don't F this up by getting Myles Murphy at 10. You have to get Allen and Mahomes and Burrow on the ground. Those are the guys that are in your way. Okay? Those are the guys that are in your way. And the only way you get to those guys, Jalen can't beat Josh Allen. Josh Allen can't beat Jalen. They don't play against one another. You got to get Dak on the ground first because he's in your division. You know, since 2000, what's the number? Since 2016, what is it? Eagles are 5-9 against the Cowboys. You got to beat Dallas. You got to get Dak on the ground. Will Anderson, one outside LB. I might put him on the weak side. I'd probably put him on the strong side because you know why? Do you understand? Will Anderson will be better than Chase Young and also Micah Parsons in your division. With one move. Your two outside pass rushers and edge rushers against shitty linemen today will be Hassan Reddick and Will Anderson. Whew. That's a nightmare. That's Carl Banks and Lawrence Taylor. You think they won because they ran the ball with O.J. Anderson and Dave Meggett back in the day? They won because they harassed quarterbacks and destroyed quarterbacks. It's a different NFL. I get it. But you got to get to the QB and you got to cover the QB today. Okay? Arthur goes, chill on the Parsons hate. It's not hate. It's reality. He's not as good as he thinks he is. Every time I tune on a game watching Micah Parsons, it's almost like watching Casper the Ghost. Sometimes I see him. Sometimes I don't. He's not that good. And sometimes he goes against some of the shit. When he goes against good people, Lane crushed him. I never saw Lawrence Taylor crushed. In losing games, he had 3 sacks. Almost destroyed everyone. That's game-changing. Hey, when you beat the Eagles with Reggie on it, ask that offensive lineman if he thought they won the game. He didn't give a shit. He just wanted to try to keep Reggie off the quarterback as many times as he could. Most overrated player in National Football League is Micah Parsons. Most overrated player. Well, then again, Zeke Elliott, most overrated running back in the NFL. Amari Cooper, most overrated wide receiver when he was there. The only guy that was worth the shit that lived up to the billing was Zach Martin. The rest of them, overrated, overhyped, and overpaid. Okay? Okay, you're right. That guy is great. Okay. I got to take a time out here. I am going to ask you a question about a player potentially joining the Eagles. Will Anderson's he's a different breed. There's not a player that Nick Saban, in all of his national championships, Khalid, that he coached that's better than this guy. There's nobody better. But you want to take Myles Murphy at 10. Okay. Hey, I'm going to need your help on this one. Don't forget. Hey, by the way, next 2 days, we're going to have at 5:30, my friend, Philly 500. And tomorrow, Mike Lombardi's going to join us along with Phil Simms. Those guys are all scheduled and ready to rock and roll. So the next 2 days, we're just going to be packed from first hour to third hour. We got a ton of stuff to hit on still. Hit the like button. Hour 2, keep it here on the National Football.